Let's be honest with ourselves for a second. We all have that 1X, you know the one. The one you look back on with rose-tinted glasses, remembering the good times, the excitement, the screaming arguments that felt like passion. For us Formula One fans, that X is the V10 era, the late 90s, the early 2000s. Back then, watching Formula One felt like watching a knife fight in a phone booth. It was dangerous, it was loud, and the cars moved like frantic insects trying to escape a jar. You could feel the violence of the machine through the TV screen. When Michael Schumacher or Juan Pablo Montoya threw a car into a corner, you held your breath because you weren't sure if the laws of physics were going to clock out for lunch. Turn on the TV today, and what do you see? It looks less like a high-speed battle and more like a procession of luxury yachts trying to navigate a canal that was built for a canoe. We aren't watching racing anymore. We are watching high-speed parallel parking. We are watching a traffic jam where the participants are wearing fireproof underwear and earning $40 million a year. People love to play the blame game. It's the tyres. The Pirelli cheese wheels fall off the cliff too fast. No, it's the tracks. Monaco is too narrow. No, it's the lack of refueling. We need to bring back the danger of setting Jos Verstappen on fire in the pit lane. But the uncomfortable truth, the elephant in the room literally, is that Formula One has a weight problem. A massive, chunky, heavy-breathing weight problem. We need to put these cars on Ozempic immediately. The evolution of the F1 car is actually terrifying if you look at it closely. We have gone from aerodynamic go-karts with rocket engines strapped to the back to sleek missiles, to what we have now, a hybrid electric limousine with a front wing that costs more than my house. These things are enormous. They are genuinely the size of a Ford F-150. Trying to hustle one of these absolute units around the tight streets of Monaco is like trying to get a sofa up a spiral staircase. Pivot! Pivot! Let's talk numbers, because numbers don't lie, like Ferrari team principles. Most people point to the 80s, but let's look at the peak of performance. 2004. The Ferrari F2004, the screaming V10 monster that Michael Schumacher used to destroy everyone's hopes and dreams. Do you know how much that car weighed? 605 kilograms. That includes the driver and fluids. 605. Fast forward to today. The current generation of cars weigh 798 kilograms. Let's do the maths. That is an increase of nearly 200 kilograms. That isn't just holiday weight. That is a complete lifestyle change. That is the difference between a cheetah and a hippo. We have added the equivalent of 2.5 average British men to the car, and we are still expecting it to dance around a hairpin. And look, I know what the comments section is already typing, but Sauti, safety. We can't remove the halo. We can't make the chassis out of cardboard. Relax, put the pitchforks down. I'm not advocating for death. I like my drivers with their heads firmly attached to their shoulders. The halo is ugly, yes. It looks like a flip-flop glued to the cockpit. But it saves lives. We saw it with Grosjean. We saw it with Zhou Guanyu sliding upside down at Silverstone like a breakdancer. The survival cell is a masterpiece of engineering. The fact that a driver can hit a concrete wall at 50 G and walk away means the weight added for safety is non-negotiable. I accept that. We all accept that. I'm not asking for us to go back to the 1970s where the crumple zone was the driver's legs. But safety isn't the main reason these cars have turned into boats. The real villain in this story is the thing the manufacturers love and the fans pretend to understand, the power unit. The hybrid era. The moment Formula One decided it needed to save the polar bears while flying 20 jumbo jets around the world every week. In 2009, we dipped our toes in the water with KERS. It was a cute little button that gave you a boost. The car stayed relatively light. But then 2014 happened, the turbo hybrid era, the moment the sound died. Look at the weight graph of F1 cars over history. It's flat, 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 and then 2014 hits and it shoots up like the price of olive oil. Why? Because batteries are heavy, electric motors are heavy. The complex systems required to harvest energy from heat and braking and the tiers of Tifosi are incredibly heavy. We are hauling around a massive lithium-ion backpack just so Mercedes and Renault can put a hybrid sticker on their road cars. And for what? So we can say F1 is road relevant? I drive a 2012 hatchback. The only thing my car has in common with Max Verstappen's Red Bull is that they both have four wheels and occasionally make a weird noise when I start the engine. I do not care if Mercedes can use their MGU-H technology in a road car that costs 200 grand. I want to see racing. So here is my proposal, and I know it's radical. Yeet the batteries into the sun. We have sustainable fuels now. Formula One loves to brag about their net zero carbon fuels arriving in 2026. Perfect! If the fuel is sustainable, why do we need the hybrid system? Why are we carrying around dead weight? Formula E exists. If I want to watch battery-powered vacuum cleaners whine around a parking lot in Brooklyn, I'll watch Formula E. Let them have the electric stuff. Give us back the V10s. Give us back the V8s. Give us engines that sound like demons screaming in agony, not engines that sound like a depressed blender. If we drop the hybrid system, we could drop 100 kilograms instantly. The cars would be smaller. The wheelbase would shorten. Suddenly, we're not driving boats anymore. We're driving race cars. But it's not just the weight. It's the size, the physical footprint of these cars is comical. You know visibility is bad when drivers are literally complaining on the radio that they physically cannot see the car next to them. We have reached a point where the mirrors are useless because the side pods are the size of a studio apartment. How many times in the last 2 years have we seen a clumsy crash where a driver just turns in on someone and afterwards they say, "I didn't see him." I believe them. I genuinely believe them. They are driving a tank while sitting in a bathtub. Of course they can't see. And because the cars are massive, the tracks feel smaller. This is simple geometry. If you put two elephants in a hallway, they cannot pass each other. If you put two cats in a hallway, they can run circles around each other. We are currently trying to race elephants. But the biggest issue, the one that actually ruins your Sunday afternoon nap, is the speed. Now hold on, I can hear you screaming at your screen. It's you idiot, it's Formula One, it's supposed to be fast, speed is the whole point. Is it though? Hear me out, in terms of the show, in terms of actual wheel-to-wheel combat, speed is often the enemy. When F1 cars get faster, it's usually because they've piled on more downforce. They've added more winglets, more floor sealing, more aerodynamic wizardry. And what does downforce create? Our old friend, dirty air. Dirty air is the ghost that haunts modern F1. It is the turbulent wake that comes off the back of a car. When a car generates huge downforce, it punches a hole in the air and leaves a chaotic mess behind it. The car following, let's say a Ferrari trying to pass a Red Bull, drives into this mess. Suddenly, their wings don't work. The air isn't sticking the car to the track anymore. The front tyres slide, the rears overheat, the driver loses grip. And so they drop back. They sit 2 seconds behind waiting for the pit stops, because getting closer than 1 second destroys their tyres. This is why we have DRS, the drag reduction system, the artificial flap open button that was supposed to be a temporary fix 10 years ago and is now the only reason we see any overtakes at all. I hate DRS. You hate DRS. We all hate DRS. It's Mario Kart logic. Oh, you are behind. Here is a speed boost. It's fake. It feels cheap. Watching a driver breeze past on a straight line without fighting for it isn't racing. It's commuting. But without DRS, with these fat, heavy, aero-dependent cars, we would have zero overtakes. We would be watching a high-speed parade. So the FIA, in their infinite wisdom, decided to fix this. Did they make the car smaller? No! Did they reduce the weight? No! They decided to write a rule book on overtaking that is thicker than the Bible and more confusing than the tax code. Have you tried to understand the current overtaking guidelines? It's a joke. It basically says if you want to overtake on the outside, you must be ahead of the front axle by the apex. Where is the apex? Nobody knows. It's an imaginary point that changes depending on which steward had a good breakfast that morning. It's created this bizarre style of racing where the driver on the inside doesn't even try to turn. They just drive the other guy off the road. They invite them into the shadow realm. And the stewards look at the replay and say, well, technically his front wing was 1 millimeter behind at the imaginary line, so pushing him into the gravel trap at 150 miles an hour is perfectly legal. It's broken. The system is broken. If the cars were smaller, lighter, and less reliant on aero, you wouldn't need a lawyer in the passenger seat to figure out if you can overtake. You would just race. You would have room on the track to go side by side without one guy ending up in the barriers. But wait! I hear the buzzing of the "well actually" crowd. Actually, the 2026 regulations are fixing this. The cars are getting smaller. Let's look at that, shall we? Let's look at the savior that is 2026. The FIA has announced that the new cars will be narrower by 100 millimeters. 10 centimeters. That is the length of a slightly disappointing hot dog. Do you really think shaving 10 centimeters off the width is going to suddenly turn Monaco into a passing paradise? It's like throwing a deck chair off the Titanic to make it lighter. It's barely a rounding error. It's cosmetic. It's the equivalent of getting a haircut and claiming you've lost weight. And the weight? They're targeting a reduction to 768 kilograms. Wow! Amazing! That brings us all the way back to the dizzying lightness of 2021. We are patting ourselves on the back for returning to the weight we had 3 years ago, which everyone complained was too heavy back then. And that's assuming the teams can even hit that weight target. Spoiler alert, they won't. The teams are already crying that the new electrical systems are so heavy that meeting the minimum weight will be impossible unless they hire jockeys instead of drivers. We're going to see drivers chopping off limbs just to make weight. And let's talk about the new engine rules for 2026. They're getting rid of DRS. Hooray! But they're replacing it with something called MOM, Manual Override Mode. I'm not making this up. The acronym is MOM. I'm going to use my mom to pass you. Who writes this stuff? Is it a teenager in a basement? It's basically the same thing as IndyCar's push to pass. It's another artificial button. It's electrical deployment warfare. Instead of racing on pure pace and skill, we're going to be watching drivers manage battery percentages and deploying their mom at the right time. It's video game stuff. It's resource management, not racing. The reality is, the 2026 regulations are a half measure. They're a band-aid on a broken leg. They're trying to keep the manufacturers happy by keeping the hybrids, trying to keep the fans happy by pretending to shrink the cars, and trying to keep the sponsors happy by keeping the cars looking futuristic. And the result is a compromise that pleases nobody. We need to stop gaslighting ourselves. We need to stop letting the TV commentators tell us, oh, it's a tactical battle when nothing happens for 40 laps. We need to stop blaming the tracks. Take a look at old footage of Spa-Belgian-Pont, 2011, Mark Webber on Fernando Alonso at Eau Rouge. Look at that move. Webber goes side by side at 180 miles an hour through the most dangerous corner on the calendar with his wheels millimetres apart. There was no DRS, there was no manual override mode, there was no 50-page document about apex ownership. There were just two guys in cars that, while still big, were light enough to change direction without needing a written invitation, trusting that the aero wouldn't vanish the moment they got close. If you try to go side by side through Eau Rouge now, the dirty air from the floor is so violent that the car behind would lose 50% of its downforce and understeer into the barrier before they even turn the wheel. I get it, I'm just a guy yelling at a camera. I understand that Formula One is a business. I understand that Mercedes, Ferrari, Honda, Audi, they all want to sell electric technology. They have boards of directors to please. They have ESG targets to hit. They cannot justify spending $1 billion building a V10 engine that burns dinosaur juice just for fun. But there has to be a balance. If Formula One loses the racing, what's left? It just becomes a tech demo. It becomes a billboard that moves fast. IndyCar is slower than F1 by a lot on road courses, but have you watched an IndyCar race lately? They're banging wheels, they're sliding around, they can follow each other nose to tail for 30 laps without their tyres exploding from overeating. It's fun, it's chaotic. I'm not saying F1 should be IndyCar. F1 should be the fastest. F1 should be the pinnacle. But pinnacle shouldn't just mean fastest lap time in qualifying. Pinnacle should mean the best drivers fighting the hardest battles. And you cannot have a hard battle when your weapon is a fragile, overweight, overeating limousine that relies on a battery pack to defend its position.
The sad reality is, we're probably stuck with this. The manufacturers have too much power. The FIA is too scared to upset them. We're going to march into 2026 with cars that are slightly thinner, slightly lighter, but fundamentally flawed by the hybrid concept. And we'll watch. Of course we'll watch. We're addicts. We'll tune in every Sunday hoping for chaos, hoping for rain, hoping for a safety car to bunch him up so we can pretend the racing is close. But deep down, every time we see a compilation of the 2004 season or hear the scream of that Ferrari V10 on a demo run, we'll know what we lost. We traded the soul of the sport for road relevance. We traded agility for efficiency. We traded noise for whatever the hell sound the current cars make. A vacuum cleaner choking on a spoon. I might be wrong. I might be a salty hater who can't accept change. Or maybe, just maybe, I'm right. If you agree that F1 cars need to go on a diet, hit the like button. If you think I'm an idiot and heavy cars are actually cool because technology, leave a comment telling me why I'm wrong. I promise I won't read it because I'll be too busy watching 2004 season highlights and crying. Thanks for watching, stay salty and try not to get stuck in the dirty air on your way out.